ולכן תהיו מרוחים דעת גדול, ותגעתם ולכם ברצון זכותו של רבי מאיר והרמש יגן עליהם არა ვიძგი პასის უნდა იყოს შეგეძლო რატო არ გადაუხო რატო არ გამიდებო შენა ვისკი დაგაბე ოკეი That's okay, don't worry about it. Thank you. Pirkeh Avot Chap. Good evening. We have to do Sfiyat Omer. We have to do about 15 minutes and Sfiyat Omer. Do everything on time. So it says in the Perek Sheni, Sfiyat of Pirkeh Avot, and bur irachet, says. What does that mean? When a person who's a bur cannot be irachet, the person who's bur. What's a bur? Anybody know what's bur? So bidzia. What's bur? Bur, what's bur? And bur irachet, that's it there, Pirkeh Avot Chap. And bur irachet. Ma ze bur? Somebody know what's bur? Bur, this is a person who's a peasant, glechi, the person who's like a peasant, he doesn't know nothing, exactly. So it says that a person like this, who doesn't know nothing really in life, cannot be rechet. You know what that means? It cannot be tzaddik. Why can't it be tzaddik, a person like this? Because he doesn't know the basic idea, of how to live your life. He doesn't understand the basic things. So you know what they say, right? That a bur, what's the difference between bur and amaretz? Amaretz is also somebody who's ignorant, right? But there's bur. So which one is worse? Bur or amaretz? Bur is worse than amaretz, right? What's the difference between them?
Amaretz is smarter.
Which way, Avi? Which way?
I don't know.
You don't know, okay.
Smarter in business way.
So it says like this, right? That the difference, oh good, you're getting close. There you go, right? So amaretz, the person doesn't know Torah. He doesn't know Torah, but he doesn't know derech eretz. What does that mean? He goes out, makes a living, goes to 47th Street, goes to Wall Street, wherever. He's got some kind of a store somewhere. He's got a jewelry store, God knows, whatever it is, right? Something. He knows how to live in this world, the person who's amaretz. He doesn't know Torah, but he knows how to work, how to make a business, how to make money, how to make a living. So what does that mean? When you learn this craft, how to make a living, how to make a business, you know what happens? You understand the way the world functions, the day-to-day things. So you develop derech eretz. You develop, zdilova. You understand the world, how it functions. So what happens is that a person like this can be irechet. You know what that means, irechet? A person who can keep the mitzvot, be a tzaddik. The rabbi tells him, this is allowed, this is not allowed. This is allowed, this is not allowed. Whatever the rabbi tells him, he does. So this is called irechet. He's irat shamayim, a person who's God-fearing person. So a person like that can be irechet, a bur. I'm sorry, amaretz. But a bur, he doesn't know anything about this world. You know how the world functions. He stays home all day, doing all kinds of strange things. He doesn't know how the world functions. Doesn't have any business, doesn't have any job, doesn't have anything in this world, any normal activity. So what happens is that a person like that, he doesn't even know the basics. So he cannot be a tzaddik. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how the world functions. So then it says, "En amaretz chasid," right? What does that mean? Right? So amaretz can be tzaddik, but it cannot be chasid. Why is that? You tell me now.
You can do tshuva and learn.
Yeah. Why can't he be chasid?
He's not chasid because his nature to be chasid.
What does that mean, nature? What does that mean? You have to have a nature for that?
He gets angry or he
gets angry. Oh, God bless you.
Like
God bless you. So you know what that means, right? Amaretz cannot be chasid. What is amaretz? A person doesn't know Torah. Torah aritzis, amaretzia, Al periaritzis. Al periarusaulia. Chumashi arusaulia. Shulchan Aruch arusaulia. Talmud arusaulia. He didn't learn nothing. Mishnayot, Talmud. What does he do? He goes home and watches CNN and Fox, He thinks he's going to become wise with that, Learning about the war in Ukraine, what's going on, who's winning? Putin or Zelensky? Who's winning over there? Right? What did they do today? What did they do yesterday? This is all he cares about. So a person like this cannot be chassid. Doesn't learn the Torah so good. Why is that? Because, there's another place in Shulchan Aruch, in the Pirkeh Avot. You know what it says over there? It says, Heve shokel schar mitzvah u'efseda. Schar avera u'efseda. You know what that means? That a person has to think, if I do this mitzvah, what am I gaining and what am I losing from this mitzvah? The way I'm doing it now. What's my gain? What's my loss? I have to be able to figure that out. Also, a person who does avera, he does a sin. He can't control himself, So he goes and does a sin. So he has to weigh, what am I getting from this avera? And what am I losing? How much am I going to lose? So if a person does this, he's got a good head, he's got a good mind. What does that mean? He studied Torah, he knows enough to know, what am I gaining, what am I losing? But a person who doesn't know that, he didn't study Torah. So the problem is that when he does Hasidut, he does some kind of, what is Hasidut? Hasidut means more than the halacha, Chumrah, Mahmir. He does Huzor HaKadosh, he does according to, all kinds of books like this, all the Mahmirim. Bet Shammai, everything he wants to do like Bet Shammai. He wants to be Mahmir. He wants to be Hasid. So a person like this, the problem is, that when he does one Hasidut, when he does one Chumrah, he doesn't realize that this is going to cause him also a loss somewhere else. He doesn't know how to make this cheshbon. He doesn't know how to make this calculation. So what happens is that even though he won over here, he did some Hasidut over here, Chumrah, but this is going to cause him to do something bad later on, and you're losing more than you gain, right? So, Yatzas Charo be'efsedo, that's what it says, right? You're losing more than you gain. This is the whole thing, So that's why he cannot be Hasid, because he doesn't know how to do this calculation. Amaretz. He doesn't know. He doesn't know the Torah. He doesn't know what's written in the Talmud, what's written in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Poskim. He doesn't know nothing about that. So he cannot do this. So therefore, that's why, most of the Poskim, they said in our generation, the Chazon Ish even said, Chazon Ish was not known to be mekel, to be lenient. He was actually quite machmir. But even the Chazon Ish says, in our generation, enough to do just like the Shulchan Aruch. Don't try to do any more than that. Don't do Chassidut in our generation. That's what he said. Why is that? Because we're not on the level to do Chassidut in this generation. Most of us, we're not on that level. Because we don't know how much we're gaining, we don't know how much we're losing. I'll give you an example and you understand maybe a little bit better, right? Let's say a person, right, he wants to be Hasid all of a sudden, and he wants to stay up all night, and learn Torah, until the morning. And Gatinos, to tell you how, like that, right? He wants to, be a big Hasid like Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Zkutot Tagen Alenu, right? Coming up with Lag B'Omer very soon on Thursday, B'ezrat Hashem, next Thursday, right? So what's happening is like this, right? That You're staying up all night, and then all of a sudden in the morning, you're so tired, right? You can't even say Kriyat Shema anymore. It cannot say Shachrit. It's Zineba. Chayat Zina, Shachrit Chayat Zina. Kriyat Shema Chayat Zina. It's sleeping. This Kriyat Shema for Amidah is falling asleep. Why? Because he did too much Hasidut, So it caused him, what Hasidut that he did at night, caused him to be, in the morning, a Rasha. What does that mean? He didn't say Kriyat Shema. He didn't say Amidah properly. He didn't go to Minyan. He didn't go to the Knesset. He didn't go. Why? Because he's so tired. That's the thing, When you do too much, sometimes extreme, Hasidut, you don't know where it's going to take you. You don't know where you're going to wind up. This is the problem, That's why the best thing, by the way, the Rambam talks about this. I want to tell you something interesting. The Rambam says there's two types of people, who are like, the tzaddikim in this world, the big chachamim. There's two types. There's one which is chacham, he says, and there's one which is chasid. Again, same thing, right? It says the Rambam, what is chacham? What is chasid? What's the difference between this and that? Which one is better? Right? Which one is better? That's the question, right? Okay, listen to this now. So says the Rambam, the chacham, what he does is, he has a chokhmah, he has wisdom, So what he does is, he's able to weigh, like what to do at which time. And he knows for every situation the proper conduct. Well, it's just receptive, so story receptive. He knows how to do here, he knows how to do over there. Everything balanced in the middle, benoni. Not too much on one extreme, not too much on the other extreme. Chacham is somebody who always going straight, wisdom. Everything is weighed. Shakul, person who weighs everything. This is Chacham. What is Hasid? What's the difference between Hasid and Chacham? Hasid is somebody who does always more than the halacha. No, he doesn't want to go in the middle of the road. He wants to go, jump over here, right? I love it, it's too much, I want that Hasidut. I want to be close to Hashem. This is Hasid, So what happens is that he goes to extremes. There's a story like this in the Gemara, something interesting, right? I'll tell you. There was a certain Chacham in the Gemara, so it says about him that every time he would see Chatan and Kala, right, just about to get married, you know what he would do? Every time he would see somebody like this, he would take all his money, all the money that he has, and give it to them, so they could get married, have a good life.
Which Chacham?
There was a certain Chacham. So what happens is, right, that comes a certain Chatan and Kala, and he sees them, it says in the Gemara. So he gives them all his money, everything. Doesn't leave nothing in his pocket. The problem is that he has a daughter and a family to support. And he didn't leave nothing for them, He gave them everything. This is Hasidut. It's crazy, a little bit crazy. You give all your money to tzedakah. You don't leave nothing for yourself? So you know what they say, right? They say that they asked him, about his daughter before he gave away the money. They said, Rabbi, but you have a daughter also. You have to marry her off also. When she finds her mate, you got to marry her too. So leave some money for her also. Why are you worried about only about these people? So he says, no. He says, Hashem, when the time will come, Hashem will give her money. Now I'll give all my money to this Chatan and Kala. Like this, right? So, you know what happened, right? That they say, Kadosh Baruch Hu made a nest for this person, made a miracle for him. What happened? Because he gave away all his money to tzedakah. They went to his house, and they saw that Kadosh Baruch Hu made a nest and gave him over there a lot of riches in his house all of a sudden, Nest, direct nest.
Wow.
Sastoli, like this. So this is what happens, sometimes a Hasid, he's such a big Hasid, Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't nest for him. Miracle, Sastoli. It happens sometimes. But not always, this is the problem, Not always you get nest. They say don't rely on nisim, right? Don't rely on miracles. So therefore, it says the Shulchan Aruch, from this Gemara I learned, the Shulchan Aruch, the laws of tzedakah, it says what? Should you be like this Hasid, like this Chacham he was? It says the Shulchan Aruch, no.
No, because it's taking a chance.
What does that mean? The maximum that a person should give tzedakah is what? 20%. 1/5 of his income. Right? Of his assets, his income, whatever, right? How does it work, by the way? It says in the Shulchan Aruch, when you first start to give tzedakah, you give 1/5 of all your assets, whatever you're worth. Let's say you're worth $5 million, so you give $1 million to tzedakah. Finished, come on. All your assets, all your belongings, everything. That's the way you should do. And then, after every year, subsequently, from your income, 1/5. This is the maximum you should give.
With the income of that
Minimum 1/10, right? 10%. Minimum 10%, maximum 20%. That's what it says. Right? But says the Shulchan Aruch, you know what? Don't give more than 20%. That's too much. Why? Shema Yani. Maybe he's going to get poor from that. You know what I mean? Not a good idea. It's halakha. Because what's going to happen? If he gives a little bit too much, maybe then he won't have enough money for his business, to keep his business going. Maybe there's going to be some kind of expense. It's going to come up, something like that. He's not going to have money for his business. So what's going to be? His business will go down, go bankrupt, because he doesn't have any capital. He doesn't have any money. Doesn't have any investment money. Nothing. So therefore, says Shulchan Aruch, don't give more than 20%. That's what it says. This is the halakha. But then in the end, you know what it says in Shulchan Aruch? Another thing it says, which is that nobody ever lost anything by giving tzedakah. In other words, the truth is, the emet is that whatever you give to tzedakah, always you never lose. You always gain. There's no loss there. Just make sure you give to somebody who really needs it, right? Don't give it to some fake guy, some fake person, who goes around collecting money, and he's a millionaire himself. There are people like this, fake people. Hashem should save it from these people. That's what they say, if you see a person collecting tzedakah on the street, or he comes to your house knocking on your door, they say, if you don't know him, says the Shulchan Aruch, don't give him a big amount, because you don't know who he is. Maybe he's ganav. So since you don't know the guy, what you do is you give him, a small amount, $5, $1, $10.
50 cents.
Don't give him $5,000. You don't know who he is, this guy. Maybe he's ganav. Who told you that he's ani? You don't know him. So you should only give a large amount to somebody that you know, you trust him. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So it says Shulchan Aruch, nevertheless though, whoever gave money to tzedakah, really to tzedakah, not to some kind of,
Bam.
right? Some drug addict, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about that he's buying drugs with that money, going and buying crack, and smoking, like the president's son, right? That guy, right? So, you know how it is. So, that's the way it goes. So, says the Rambam, now the question is like this, right? Who's better? The Chacham or the Chassid?
Chacham.
So the Rambam holds the Chacham is better.
Chacham and Abba.
Yeah. You know why? Because he knows how to do everything the right way, straight, in the middle. Not too much to extreme. Because what happens is that when you do it to extreme, it's not yafeh, it doesn't come out sometimes so good. It comes out very extreme, very weird, very strange. So you know what they say, right? That this Chacham, even though Kadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle for him, and he filled up his house, whatever he gave to tzedakah, he filled it up for him. He made a nest. But they say, you know what? You shouldn't be matriach Kadosh Baruch Hu like this. Don't bother Kadosh Baruch Hu to give you a nest like this. Don't give away all your money to tzedakah. You have to leave also something for your family. This is the way it is. So Chacham is better than Chassid. That's what the Rambam says. Because of this reason.
Chacham and Abba.
Not only that, right? It says in Azra Kadosh something even more powerful. Right? It says also in the Talmud, same thing. You know what it says, right? Chacham adif mi navi. Chacham is better than navi. Better than prophet. Right? How can that be, by the way? Why is Chacham better than navi? You tell me, what do you say, Avi?
I said that a couple of months ago. Because Chacham is always Chacham, and he knows some Ruach HaKodesh. Navi doesn't have the Nebuah every time he wants.
Okay, yeah, it's true what you're saying. But let's elaborate on that a little bit, right? So what's the thing? The thing is like this. You're right what you're saying. It's good. So what I'm telling you is like this, right? It says that Chacham is adif min Navi. So why is Chacham better than Navi? Navi, he gets information from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ruach HaKodesh, So what's better than that? Chacham is not getting information from up there. He's from his own sechel, from his own dat, from his own chokhmah he's using. So why is that better than a Navi? Right, but he learned that, from the books, you know what I mean? He didn't get that from Shamayim, you know what I mean? He learned, he utarach bezer. He worked hard, This is not nisim, nisim beniflot. You know what I mean? He sat in the Bet Midrash for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, became a chacham, That's not from Shamayim. You know what I mean? He did it, he worked. U'amal bezer, right? But Navi is getting for free. I'm sorry, what were you saying? You're right what you're saying. It's true. You're both right. It's very, very true what you're saying. This is also very true. But you know what it is? The Hazar Kadosh says something even more amazing. which you have to understand, by the way, which is that a person who's a real chacham, who really studies Torah for a long time, day and night, day and night, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, Talmid Chacham, Amiti, what happens is that everything that he thinks in his mind is always according to the Torah. Every thought that he has, every machshava that he has is according to the Torah. So he cannot go wrong, There's nothing, you cannot go wrong like that. Because when you do everything according to the Torah, what happens is that there's no mistakes. Almost zero. So whatever that person does, always is thinking about this. What did the Rashba say? What did the Ritva say? What did Tosfot say? What did the Rambam say? This is how he thinks. He thinks according to the Torah. Everything is according to the Torah.
Me too.
So a person like this makes less mistakes than anybody else. He makes almost no mistakes. This is the reason why he's better than a Navi. Yeah, that's what it says, right? So now, interesting. Let me tell you something interesting. There's a story. Right? This is about Rabbi Akiva Eger, who was the Gedol Ador in Russia about 300 years ago. And there was a king that he used to like to speak to. The king used to invite him in Russia. Not Putin, somebody else, before Putin. So he used to invite him to his house, to the palace, and speak, words of Chokhmah with him, some Torah, some things like this. So what happened was that one time the king invited him to his house, to his palace, and he tells Rabbi Akiva Eger like this. He says, you're the big chacham, you're the big rabbi of the generation, of the Jews. Tell me, he says, I have one question. It says in your Talmud, I read your Talmud, he says, I read it. I know what it says there. I read the Talmud also, like Obama, Obama was reading the Talmud, So, right? So he was reading, he told him, he says, I saw there, it says like this, Chacham adif mi Navi. That Chacham is better than Navi. He says, can you explain to me what that means? So I don't understand, what is that? How can Chacham be better than Navi? Than a prophet? So he says, what I'm going to do? He says, you wise people, you're the big Chacham of the generation. He says, I'm going to test you to see if that's true. I'm going to test you. You're a Chacham, no? He says, I'm going to test you and see if it's true. Oh. So what happened? He says, what I'm going to do? He says, I'm going to go and leave the palace. I'm going to go with my chariot, my horses, and I'm going to go out from one exit. I'm not going to tell you which exit. There's a few exits from the palace. North wing, south wing, west wing, all kinds of things, right? The front lawn, the back lawn, all kinds of things. Right? So he says, I'm not going to tell you which way I'm going. So I want you to put in the envelope, right, which way I'm going to go out from the palace. And he says, when I go out, we'll see if you were able to predict, how I left the palace. Then we'll see if you're really better than Navi. Let's see if you're better than Navi. That's what he tells him.
Wow. It's a riddle.
Yeah. So it tells him, what can he do? He has no choice. He's a king. If he doesn't play games with him, doesn't play ball with him, he's going to get angry at him. So he says, okay, you honor the king. He says, whatever you say, we'll do. Okay, fine. So he says, okay, here's the envelope, here's the piece of paper. Right now, which gate I'm going to go through, put it in the envelope, and I'm going to leave, and we'll see if you were right or not. That's it. Right? So what happens? He puts in the envelope, the Rabbi Akiva Eger, he puts in the paper, okay, now, right, he goes, so now he leaves the palace, the king, and he's thinking while he's leaving the palace, says, which way should I go out? He says, let me try to find the right thing to do over here. These rabbis are very smart, these Jews are very clever, very clever people. So he says, I have to trick him somehow to see what I can do, So he says, if I go out the main entrance, the front lawn, that very easy to predict that, right? He's going to predict that. What's the big thing, if I go out the front. So if I go out to the back, that's also, very easy to predict, he says. What kind of thing is that? So that's very easy. 50-50, you'll get this one or that one. What's the big deal? So he says, what I'm going to do? I'm going to trick him. So he says, what I do is I'll make a breach in the fence. I'll break down the fence, the wall, and I'll go through the broken fence. I'll go through there to leave. So he tells his servants, he says, break down the wall over there. Bring a tank, T-72. Break down the wall and let me go out from there. Bring one of Putin's tanks, right? Bring it over there and let me go out from there. So they broke the wall down, and okay, goes out from there. So now all of a sudden, he comes back, a few hours later, So the rabbi is still there, the Rabbi Akiva Eger, So he tells him, he says, okay, he says, let's open up the envelope and see what you wrote. Let's see if you were right or not. So he thinks he's got him, Oh, that's good, pretty good, huh? So he opens up the envelope, and what does it say there, right? Melech Poretz Gader one more word. Ve'over. What did he write over there? There's a halacha like this. He wrote a halacha. Halacha, that's it. There's a halacha like this in Shulchan Aruch, in the Rambam, that a melech, a king, is allowed to break down the wall of a certain person's property, private property. He's allowed to pass through there if he wants to. In other words, if he needs to go pass through there, take a shortcut. Even though this is private property, but the melech has the right to break down the wall and pass through, and then he's got to pay him for that, to rebuild the wall. The melech, gentleman, like this, right? So this is exactly what he wrote. He says, Melech Poretz Gader Ve'over. So he says, wow, guy go. Exactly what he did, that's what he wrote, So what do you see from there? The Be'emet, the Chacham is better than the Navi. He was right, like we said. There's nothing like the Chacham. Chacham is the best thing that there is. Okay, so that's exactly what it says right over here. So, En Amaretz Chasid. So what do we have to learn from there? It says in Ramchal, Mesilat Yesharim. You ever read this book, Avi?
Maybe a little bit.
Ramchal. He says over there, he brings over there different levels that a person can go to reach Ruach HaKodesh, to get to Ruach HaKodesh, to become like a Navi. So one of the levels that he has to go through is Hasidut, to become a Hasid. What is Hasid? To do more than the halacha, as we said. There's one level like this, Hasidut. But it says in Pirkeh Avot, En Amaretz Hasid. So therefore, says the Ramchal HaKadosh, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, he says that a person, before he becomes Hasid, in order that he shouldn't be Amaretz, what does he have to do? First, learn all the halachot of the Shulchan Aruch. The Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, Talmud Bavli, Talmud Yerushalmi, learn everything, and then you're not Amaretz anymore. Now you know what's the halacha in every way, in every situation. So now you can be Hasid. That's what he says. So this is the way to do it. If a person really wants to be Hasid, first he has to learn the Shulchan Aruch. So we'll finish here, right? I don't want to keep you too long, but I want to tell you one more thing, right? It says in Zohar Kadosh, regarding this, let me ask you a question. This is a very strong question, by the way, very strong question. A lot of Jews ask this question. I'm sure most of you, or some of you, have asked this question in your heart. Like sometimes, We all do. You know what the question is? The question is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us such a hard Torah? It's a Neri Torah. So many halachot, thousands of halachot, like this to keep, And if you break one little halakha, you have to do vidui on Yom Kippur, kapara, this, chatati, aviti, pashati. For every little halakha, you have to do teshuvah. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us such a hard Shulchan Aruch like this? So difficult. So many halachot like this. What do we need it for? Let's just live like normal people, like everybody else, Let's be normal. I do whatever I want, you do whatever you want. Let's not harm each other, right? I don't steal from you, you don't steal from me. I don't kill you, you don't kill from me. That's enough. What do we need all these halachot for? What for what?
To be kadosh.
What does that mean to be kadosh? Right? What do we need? Why do we need all these halachot? So, what it says in Zohar Kadosh, right? Something amazing. The reason why we need the halachot is because of what? Chetam Adam Arishon. The first man, Adam Arishon, when he sinned, what happened was that at that time, the world was on a very high level of Kedusha, holiness. So then what happened was that when he sinned, the world fell into the klipot, fell into the tumah, into the it fell down, So what happened was that the world became very impure, very tameh, very impure world, very dirty world. As you see, right, what's going on. Look out, look at the news. Look what's going on around you, right? People are killing each other like flies. We live in a very dirty world. So the question is, what's the reason for that? Because of Chetam Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon, when he sinned, the whole world dropped down into evil, into tumah, into klipah. So what happened was that when the Jewish people received the Torah on Har Sinai, you know what happened, right?
Clean.
This was all cleaned up. Everything was betukan. Everything was cleaned up. Everything was fixed up.
Exactly.
When they received the Torah on Har Sinai, Kadosh Baruch Hu brought them back to the level of Adam Arishon, the Jewish people. They came back to the same level as Adam Arishon was. Unbelievable. So what happened? When they did the Chet Egel, right? They sinned, serving the calf, the golden calf. Again, it fell down again to the klipot, the world. Also the klipot.
No, Mashiach.
We came back on Matan Torah, and then we dropped down again. Boom. Because of Chet Egel. Right away, the Jewish people sinned. So you know what happened, right? Says the Zohar Kadosh, because the whole world now is in Tumah until Mashiach comes. If we don't keep the halakha, what happens is, anybody who doesn't keep the halachot, he doesn't know Shulchan Aruch, he falls into the klipot, and he falls into the Tumah. And this is exactly what the Pirkeh Avot is telling you. Ena maratz chasid. You cannot be chasid. You cannot be a holy person if you don't know halachot. Because the halachot are keeping you out of the klipot, they're keeping you out of the Tumah. They're keeping you out of the impure places. If you don't keep every halakha, you're still in Tumah somewhere. Somewhere in Tumah you are. There's no way to get out of Tumah except to keep every halakha. Every mitzvah. Tayach mitzvot. It's the only way to do it. So therefore, this is the whole thing. And Amaratz Hasid. If you want to be Kadosh, if you want to be Hasid, first you have to learn all the halachot and keep them. Otherwise, you're going to fall into the klipot. This is the whole thing, you know? So don't try to jump from one place to another. You cannot go from being a regular guy to being a Hasid. First you have to become, what? Chacham. Learn the Shulchan Aruch. Learn the Talmud. Baruch Adonai לעולם, אמן. רבי חנן, שומר סוף משפחות ישראל, לפיכך ידבר, אני צריך לשמוע חפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.
וישתבח ויתברך ויעשה בתור